Welcome to Let's Mix It Up Friday. Today we're going to do a fun little fact, so a quick little tip to help you in your crafting. So we're going to talk a little bit about embossing, and this is not going to be dry embossing. This is considered wet or heat embossing. I have gone ahead and cut out two little dies here using this Dynamics die from My Favorite Things, and it is called Designer Labels 3 Stack. So that's it. The first thing we're going to talk about is static, or the lint that is left on your product. I have an embossing little buddy thing that you rub on it, and it helps to make it so that the static isn't all over from your fingerprints or anything else that is touched. I, however, cannot find it. It's not in the drawer that I always throw it into, so I don't know. It disappeared. But the other thing you can use is a dryer sheet. This is just a regular dryer sheet that you throw into your laundry. I use this all the time, and it does about the same thing. So all you have to do is just kind of rub on top of it here. Oops. And then for the first stamp, I thought we'd use this cute little Bunches of Love in the It's Fall About You set. So just grab that. And I'm also going to be using Versamark ink. This, I believe, is the best ink to use when you're doing any kind of heat embossing. You, however, can use pigment inks because they stay wet for a longer period of time. So you can emboss on top of those also. Dye inks dry too fast, so they don't really work. So what I'm going to do here is just ink this little sentiment up. Kind of center this. So I'm going to use, okay, that's another thing. There's so many like little tricks, I think, that if you have it, use it. If you don't have it, use something that could be like it if you can make it yourself. I mean, why spend the money on something that you don't need to spend your money on? This is from Club Scrap, which is a club that I used to belong to like forever ago in the 90s. That dates me. I, however, use a sheet of paper here, and I get the same result. All it is to catch your extra embossing powder after you've placed it on top of your stamped image. So you just sprinkle it on top, pick up your item, give it a little tap. Do you see down here where it's caught some of the, I don't know if you can see that, let's see, where it's caught some of the embossing powder and on the edge? You can either take a, I can't even think, a brush, like a regular little like watercolor brush or whatever, to just gently kind of wipe it off, or your finger, or whatever works for you. I can see that there's blue powder here. I also give it just a tiny little flick to try to get some of that off. Now, on purpose, I'm going to leave a couple little blue flakes left behind, and I will tell you why in a minute. Okay, so now we're going to just take our paper here, and we're just going to kind of bend it to create a funnel, so it all just goes back into our little pot here, and we don't waste any. This is one of my little tricks here. What I do is, this is my heat gun. It's from Stampin' Up. I take my heat gun or your heat tool, whatever you have, and this is going to be, okay, so this is going to be hard to hold because, let's face it, the heat guns, they get extremely hot. So what I suggest is just grabbing a pair of tweezers so that your fingers aren't close to the actual image that you're trying to heat emboss. And then what I do is I will turn on my heat gun, I will let it sit in the air for, you know, I don't know, maybe 10 seconds, maybe if that. It gets hot pretty fast. And then I take it and I always go behind my image a few times first before I go to the front for two reasons. It starts to activate your embossing powder and it starts to stick to your paper. But the other reason is a lot of times if you haven't, say your Versamark ink pad was a little bit dry and it caught it with a great image on the front that you thought. And when you start going like this, the heat, it's not just heat, it is actually blowing air. And so it starts to blow the little chunks of the embossing powder all over your image. I'm sure you've seen it before on projects where there's like little embossing powder around the image. And sometimes that's so hard because it's not necessarily the person's doing it wrong. It's, you know, they need to ink their Versamark pad or whatever. But this is a trick I've found that works really good for me, and I don't really get as many little flakes, so I like it. Okay, one other thing about using your heat tool behind and then in front, it also helps with warping. So as you can see, I mean, yes, it bows just an itty bit, but really it's pretty dang straight. Okay, for this image, let's use the Jolly Holiday set. I keep all my masks behind my set so I don't have to recreate them all the time. Oh, that shows up really well. You can see the little tiny flecks that I've left at the top of the, right, can you see them right there? At the top of the label here on purpose. I'm gonna wipe a couple of them off, but I'll show you what you do. Okay, so can you see that pink has kind of splattered up there a little bit? I'm gonna show you my little trick and nobody will know that it happened. If you can see it before you start embossing, try to wipe it away. But if you don't, or while you're heat embossing and it starts to fly and it sticks to your project, take a marker. This is a Copic multi-liner marker. It's 0.5. And all you have to do, literally, is touch the top of the color where that has flown off. Nobody will know. Now this is harder when you get into like colors that you may not have a marker for, like yellow or whatever, but you should be able to use any kind of marker that matches that paper. I hope you enjoyed this fun little fact, and I will see you next time. Bye.